no, the noodle girl's rambling again. Whatever will we do? That's besides the point. I really wanted to say something because I feel like it's never said, or at least I've never seen it said. But it's such a common occurrence, and I just really wanted to, shed some light on it. Whenever someone is a victim of something, for example, your SA, when they go to tell someone, the response that, 80% of the time they always get is like, oh, why didn't you blah? Why didn't you do blah, And I just think that's ridiculous. Put yourself in their shoes for a second. It's a traumatic experience. You don't have a head that thinks clearly in that moment. You can't just magically do the right thing. Unfortunately, that's the case. I wish it weren't, but that's the case. You claim that you're supporting the victim, but you're immediately blaming them. You're saying, oh, you could have done this, you could have done that. This could all be avoided if you did blah, blah, blah. What we should really be doing is shedding some light on the attacker, not the victim, the attacker. Respond with, oh my gosh, I can't believe they do something like that. Are you okay? Or, I can't believe it. I wouldn't expect them to do something like that, but now that you're shedding light on this, I'm going to do my best to help you. You should never put blame on the victim, especially if they felt comfortable enough to tell you. When I was a victim of SA, technically it took me hours to tell someone, but that's because I just felt so awful about it that I felt I could no longer be silenced. And even then, those people that I told were the most trusted people that I ever knew, and I knew that they'd actually help. For normal people such as my friends, I didn't tell them until weeks and even months later, because I was just so nervous. And the responses I got were, oh, she wouldn't do something like that to you. No way is that real. She's nice to me, so I don't get it. Or they were, oh, well, you could have done this. Why didn't you do that? Couldn't you have just blah, blah, blah? And the thing is, I know I made some pretty shitty decisions during that time period. And yes, there were some things that I could have done better. But I didn't know that what she was going to do was actually going to happen. I thought we were just joking around at first. So I was smiling. I was happy. Until I wasn't. Some people smile and some people laugh as a way to cope with things. And just because I was happy, just because I was think about it like this. When someone gets catcalled, 90% of the time the response is a giggle, 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 hee hee hee. It doesn't mean they're happy. Okay, it doesn't mean they're enjoying the moment. They could be distraught. They could be embarrassed. Laughing is a very good way of masking and coping. And to you to automatically assume that that's oh, yeah, she was happy, she was giggling, she didn't take it that serious. No. I took it very seriously. And it took me years to rekindle the relationship with the person who did that to me. Please just never blame the victim or, try to make the attacker seem like an angel. Because even if what the victim's saying doesn't sound true, it very well could be. You never know who a SAO could look like. They could be your best friend, for all you know. They could be your parent. They could be even your siblings, your partners. They can take the forms of so many people. In fact, everyone can be an SAO. Yes, everyone can be an SAO. Except for, I'd say, people under, 10. Everyone 10 and under, I feel they don't really know what they're doing. But nowadays, there's so much stuff to the public, and unfortunately, children are consuming 18 plus material that they really shouldn't be. And it's to the point that people 10 and over, I'd say, should know when SA is happening and should know what they're doing. I feel like when people blamed me, it just felt so awful because, yes, while I did have people believing me, the amount of people who believed me over the people who didn't was ridiculous. I had 5 people believe me. 5 people. And I told about 15. Can you believe that? And even then, of the people who started believing me, they were saying things like, the more you bring this up, the more and more I feel like this isn't true. And it's just so ridiculous. Because, can you imagine how I felt in that situation? And when people support the attacker, it just feels really gross. Okay? Like, yeah, okay, she was a nice person. But I told you so many things about what she did to me. I told you about how she physically dragged me across concrete, pinched me, dragged me across tan bark, hit me, whatever. She did so much. And all while doing that, she was saying rude things about me, giggling, acting cute like she was doing nothing. I tell you all the things that she did to me, yet you still choose to support her. Because, oh, she was nice to me, so I don't see what the problem is. Just because someone is nice to you doesn't mean that they're nice to everyone else. Unfortunately, that's the sad truth. The reason my attacker and I are friends now is because I realized later on that she was getting all this behavior from another family member, and I realized that she actually really didn't mean any harm, and she just was doing what she thought was the correct thing to do in said situation. So yeah, we're friends now, and she very much respects boundaries and understands when to stop, listens to everyone around her, behaves, and she just didn't understand social cues that much. So when I was laughing, she thought it was okay to continue. She now knows that what she did was wrong, and she's healing in her own way and coping, and I'm really glad for that. Even though she did do bad things to me, I forgive her. But in the moment I didn't, and I realized that people should be supporting the victim more instead of blaming the victim or supporting the attacker. Because there's so many times where I see people say like, oh, people didn't believe me when this happened, or, oh, people supported the attacker because, the attacker was nice to them. And it's so frustrating. And it actually breaks my heart. Because imagine you've just been hit by someone who you thought was very, very close to you. And you tell your best friend about it. And they're like, what? But she's our best friend. She wouldn't do that. And like, if she really hit you, then couldn't you have done this? Couldn't you have blah, blah, blah? Like, you caused this situation to escalate. That kind of stuff. How isolated would you feel then? When your 2 best friends turn on you? 2 people really close to you? It's horrible. It's an absolutely horrible feeling. I was isolated when she did what she did, and I was only talking to, like, in real life, 2 other people. I felt sick because I was the one who was forced to move away from them. They sided with her over me because she was more fun to be around. Now, I'm glad to say that my friend groups have been better to me. There has been a little bit of a mix-up in the format of our friend group, but our friend group nonetheless is a lot nicer to each other, and we care about each other more. But at the time, it was absolutely horrible. I don't want anyone to go through what I went through again. So please, I know like nobody is really gonna see this, but please if you ever have someone who claims that they've been assaulted, harassed, anything like that, just listen to them and take their side of the story until you have concrete proof that what they're saying is incorrect. Because that is so much better than blaming them, questioning them, doubting them, and supporting the attacker. If you're there for them, that's the best thing that you can do. Just please don't budge them to answer any questions. Don't doubt them. Don't doubt their story. Until you have any concrete, solid evidence that what they're saying is wrong, just go with it and just support them. Because there are so many devastating effects of what SA can do to someone, and I'm lucky that what happened to me was only really minor. It could have gotten a lot worse, and I know that if my attacker was swapped out for a different attacker, it could have gotten so much worse. And that's why we need to support everyone. Just support the victims, because it is so hard when someone is SA'd. And this doesn't just go for SA. This goes for, verbal assault, physical, all that kind of stuff. And if you notice it happening to someone, don't be silent about it. When I was SA'd, people laughed and called me a lesbian. That's not the right thing to do. I understand that my school is full of a-holes, but that's not the right thing to do. If you see someone being verbally, physically, mentally, psychologically, whatever assaulted, just say something. Tell them to stop. Diffuse the situation. Record even. Send the recording to the police. There are so many things that you can do to help. And when stuff like that is happening, you really need to help immediately, because there's so much bad things that can happen if you just leave this stuff alone. Yeah, that's kind of all I wanted to say. Thank you.